The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships. Or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
The 2-minute rule. So for many of you, you are in this podcast and you may be listening to this simply because you have a problem. And your problem is you start too big. You want things to change overnight. Like you want this huge chunk of an outcome or a result taken right away. The problem is you don't make things simple enough to just get started. Or you may bite off more than you can chew and you end up doing way more, but you can't keep up with the work. You see, a habit is very similar to an entrance ramp to a freeway. It will simply lead you down a path, and before you know it, you're speeding right next to someone else. So let's talk about this rule for a minute. Very simply, a 2-minute rule will simply state you begin this new habit and it takes less than 2 minutes. Let me repeat that again. The 2-minute rule states that when you begin a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes. Now, some of you may sit there and be like, well, dude, I can walk for 2 minutes. I could do push-ups for 2 minutes. I could do anything for 2 minutes. But that's really the point of it, is to trick your brain into believing, hey, like there's no excuse for me to get out of this. So I could do anything for 2 minutes. Anyone can exercise for 2 minutes. Doesn't matter who it is. But the whole idea is to make it simple just to get started. And the simple to get started begins to build. It begins to give you this confidence and this certainty in every single thing that you're doing. You begin to be consistent. And with this consistency, you begin to build a foundation of consistency. This is one of the major things that I see happen with habits and routines is they break this consistency. And what ends up happening is it's like, well, it's hard to get started again because I have way too much I have to get done. So a new habit or a new routine shouldn't feel like a challenge. It shouldn't feel hard to get started. It should be simple. And I think this is one of the main concepts in this. And when we talk about this, it's very simple. But it's almost so simple that we miss out on this entire thing to make it simple, make it easy. You see, the more repetitions, the more I can make things simple and easy. You will complete this, especially at the beginning. And it's more important at the beginning just to complete this 2 minutes than it is to do 20, 30, 40 minutes. Because the more likely you will be to begin to stick with this. One of the books I've recently read is they talk about this as being called a gateway habit. It just simply opens you up and leads you to something else, to the desired outcome or the desired goal that you're actually looking for. And there was a process they used to break this down very simple. This had to do with going out and running. And I've used this similar thing myself, but we often don't look at habits as like putting on your shoes. That's a very easy habit that leads me to going outside and taking a walk for 10 minutes. So imagine in your mind, you had this starting point of a habit of just putting on your shoes. That was very easy. Then the next thing was the easiest thing to do was to walk for 10 minutes. Outside, inside, doesn't matter. In place, just walk for 10 minutes. If you're at work and you can't go outside, walk around your building, walk around your office, just do it for 10 minutes. So this very easy of putting your shoes on becomes easy to walk for 10 minutes. Then we have this moderate game, which is walking 10,000 steps a day. Now, if you sit down all day, this may be difficult for you in the beginning, but that's why it became moderate. Then we get into the harder part, which is running a 5K. And running a 5K, if you've never ran before or if you're coming straight from the couch, is not easy at all. And then that turns into the very hard thing of running a marathon or a half marathon. So think about this process. Very easy was putting my shoes on. Easy was walking for 10 minutes. The moderate game or the moderate process of all this is just to simply do 10,000 steps a day. Then the hard thing is to do a 5K. And then the very hard thing is to run either a half marathon or a marathon. But guess what? If I don't put running shoes on, it doesn't start the process. So I want you to imagine in your mind, if you don't put running shoes on, all of a sudden you're walking outside barefoot and you've automatically made this way harder than it needed to be. So back up. And here's the reality of all habits. They must be established before they can be improved. Your habits must be established before they can be improved, which means I must be able to put my shoes on consistently before I can move into walking for 10 minutes. And before I can now take 10,000 steps a day, I must be able to walk for 10 minutes. So my previous habits must be established before I can improve and move on to the next level. And what most people do is they would put their shoes on as their beginning habit. They would walk for 10 minutes and all of a sudden they're trying to run a marathon and they're wondering why they continue to struggle and continue to quit after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, because they expect to run a marathon when they haven't even walked for 10 minutes consistently. They haven't even taken 10,000 steps consistently. And they haven't even ran a 5K consistently. So here's the reality. Stop trying to master a perfect habit from the start. Do the easiest thing on a consistent basis. Like all you have to do is just master this art of just showing up. Just showing up each and every day, and you can improve that habit that doesn't even exist. You can't improve anything that doesn't exist, which means if you haven't ran a 5K, you have no business running a half marathon, let alone a marathon. If you haven't walked a 5K, you have no business running this 5K. But you can never improve a habit that doesn't exist. So if you don't have a habit of putting your shoes on or walking 10 minutes, don't go to the 10,000 steps or running a 5K. So I have a little assignment for you guys today. You're going to identify the habit you want to take through this process. It could be one of your, yearly goals, your 90-day goals, your 30-day goals. And I want you to list out every single step. Very easy. Remember, this was putting on your shoes. You could just write this down. Then easy became walking for 10 minutes. Then moderate was walking 10,000 steps. Then hard was running this 5K. And then all the way to very hard was running either a half marathon or marathon. Now, some of you guys are going to be like, well, how long would this actually take? Here's what I know. 4 years ago, I made a decision to run a 12K. Now, at that time, I'd never ran anything over like 5 miles consistently. And I maybe had done that once, but I gave myself 90 days to do this and pull it off. And granted, I'm probably in better shape than the average person, but I want you to understand and see the progression in this. By the time 6 weeks hit, I had signed up for a 10K, which was about, I think it was like a mile and a half short of the 12K. By the time I got to the finish line, I'm like, shit, man, I feel awesome. I'm actually just going to keep going and finish my 12K right now. So I ended up running another mile and a half after the race, and I ended up finishing my 12K. But the thing that I realized in this is I could do more than I thought I could. If you're just coming straight from the couch, then just go through this. Put on your shoes. Once that becomes consistent, and once you have showed up in that, you can now move on to walking 10 minutes. Some of you may be like, hey, I can do more. Then do more. But just start. Walk for that 10 minutes. Once it becomes 10 minutes, bump it up a little bit. Once you've been consistent with that, then build to the moderate 10,000 steps every single day. And then once you've been consistent with that, then we move into the hard, which is running this 5K. And then we can move on to very hard, which is either a half marathon or a marathon. I guarantee anybody can do this in 90 days, running a half marathon. If you want to run a marathon, it may take you 120 days to 6 months, but you'll be able to do this. So list out very easy, moderate, hard, very hard. You can do this with any habit. And then the last thing is, what does it feel like to look at the progression? Like when I look at this progression, it creates a very simple structure for me to do this. All my years as a personal trainer, all my years as a coach was spent on simplifying this process. The last piece I want you to do, I want you to email me. Very easy to very hard. The list that you have with your name and your phone number. And I want to call you personally or email you back personally and just check in with you and see how you're doing. One of the hashtags I want you to use this year is Can't Stop Me. You can't be stopped by anyone other than you in 2019. So Can't Stop Me, hashtag Can't Stop Me, is a hashtag to remind yourself that you can't be stopped. No one can stop you but you. And I want you that to sink in at the beginning of 2019 and continue to use that so you can't be stopped. You can't be stopped to put your shoes on. You can't be stopped to walk for 10 minutes. You can't be stopped to take 10,000 steps. And you can't be stopped to run a 5K, and you can't be stopped to run a half marathon or a marathon wherever you're at. But once you're complete with this, email me. Let me know where you're at and how you're doing. If you need some adjustments to it, I would love to help you. You can email me at jesse@habitbasedlifestyle.com. Leave me a review. Let me know if you want to hear some other habits or some other things that you want to talk about. You can also check out my website, habitbasedlifestyle.com, where we have some free content up there. But I would love to hear your feedback. I also have a book. It's called Man in the Mirror. You can get this up, pick this up on Amazon. These are all ways that you can't be stopped in 2019. So today, go through this process, write it out, and actually sit there and look and see how it feels to actually have a system of progression for the next 90 days on any outcome, any goal that you put in there, anything you can do, business, body, being, and even in your relationships, you can put anything in there. So guys, I appreciate you being here. Until next time, have a great week.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse